Sound and audio.
Fantastic.
Audio and video is good. All right. Good deal.
It's Noah from yesterday. Yes.
Yes, it is. It's
I'm
Noah
back.
from yesterday.
Back for more.
It says on the screen right now, it should say Noah Petro.
Sorry. If you thought you were sick of me yesterday,
So here we are back again. Y'all know where we are. I've told you 100 times. You should have taken a note if you have a bad memory. Intrepid Sea, Air, and Space Museum. We're talking about the 50th anniversary of the Apollo moon landings. Because now, 50 years ago today, they were down. They were on the moon.
that's right. They landed about, let's see, what time is it now? Actually, exactly 3 hours ago.
There
or
you
just
go.
about 3 hours
Just
ago.
about
from
3 hours
now.
ago.
And they walked on the moon about 3.5 hours from now.
From now.
So
Like at nighttime, I guess.
they're still in the lunar module, checking everything out, and getting ready for their first moonwalk.
Yeah. So this, we talked with Noah yesterday, right? This is going to be our super formal hangout session. This is your chance to ask questions to a NASA scientist. Can I say that as a NASA scientist?
That is 100% correct.
It's actually accurate, right? So we're just going to sort of chat about stuff. We went through the presentation. We saw the awesome presentation with all the cool imagery.
Yep.
That stream, that VOD is up from yesterday if you want to watch it when we're done here. But we went through all that. And so today we're just going to sort of hang out and chat.
Yep.
With chat about, I mean, I can't rhyme anything on the moon with chat, so.
Not PG anyway.
So that's going to be the chance here. So what do you think about, like, how does it sort of make you feel that 50 years ago we were on the moon and where we are today? Like,
Yeah.
how do you
So,
feel?
I mean, I wasn't born when we landed on the moon. I was born 10 years after, and so quick math, that means I'm 40.
There you go.
And so for me, the moon landing's never been something that I was intimately familiar with, having experienced firsthand. It was always something watching, reading about. So, I have a very different reaction than thinking about the moon landing than the people who stayed up and watched it on TV.
Sure.
For me, it still is inspiring because it's something that we as a country did. The agency that I work for, NASA, did it. And so, when I think of the moon landing, I think of this great accomplishment, and I really I'm somewhat jealous that I never had that opportunity to participate in it. And that
Right.
makes me excited for the possibility that in 2024 we'll be landing humans on the moon again. And
With
so
Artemis.
With the Artemis program, right?
Yeah.
We've got a logo and everything. So it's
Just as of yesterday,
as
I
of
think.
yesterday, yeah. So for me, I'm excited for the opportunity to have that wondrous moment of watching, watching humans, watching astronauts
Yeah.
that I may be fortunate enough to train about lunar geology, walk on the surface of the moon.
Yeah.
And in thinking back to Apollo, and one of the lines that I hear about it is, it's this global event, and it's really one of the few of those peaceful events that everybody remembers where they were.
Right.
We talk about the Kennedy assassination. We talk about the Martin Luther King assassination, the Challenger disaster. All these really,
Sort of like
9/11, all these
traumatic
negative things
events, yeah.
where people come together to participate and share in a moment. And Apollo 11 landing was really one of the only that is really
Positive.
peaceful and positive.
Yeah.
I think the other close ones, and it's maybe on a slightly level different tier, are like royal weddings.
Right,
Very
okay.
big. People tune in for that kind of global events.
Yeah, royal wedding, moon landing.
Exactly, not always, but the closest we get to that nowadays
yeah.
for peaceful things. And then the other recent event that I think of that at the time it was happening, I thought, well, this is as close as I might get to that, was the Chilean mine rescue.
Right.
A decade ago now, I forget
Right,
exactly
right.
how long ago, where it was watching what's going to happen. Are they going to make it out okay? Oh my. And Apollo 11, again, I wasn't there. It was probably similar. What's going to happen? Are they going to land? Are they going to make it back?
Yeah.
We don't know. It's easy with hindsight to go back and say, well, of course, everything works
Oh
out.
yeah, it worked out great. Yeah,
We know
sure.
how that movie ends. And at the time, we didn't know how that rescue was going to go.
Right.
NASA participated in supporting that, and so it was another really,
It's a
proud
positive
moment,
thing.
a positive
Yeah.
moment.
It's a difference, right? Because
Yeah.
when there's like a traumatic event, like an assassination, that sort of like burns it in your memory, and it's a negative sort of
Yeah.
thing. And it's good to have positive
Yes.
memories.
You walk away,
It's-
you feel good about it.
Yeah.
You save the newspaper headline out of that event. You remember where you are. You call
Yeah.
people around, watch what's happening here, and maybe I'm not thinking carefully enough, but we really don't have many of those positive.
I agree. I can't come up with any
affirming moments.
Yeah. At least not to the sort of scale of landing on the moon
Right.
or whatever. So landing on the moon again with Artemis, which I'm pulling for, I'm rooting
Yeah.
for, right? Maybe one day getting onto Mars. I hope that happens in my lifetime as well. Like,
Yeah, no, so we have the promise of these possible events. I think with Artemis, what will be different is there will still be people alive when Artemis happens who remember Apollo.
Saw the first
but
one
there'll be
landing.
an entire generation the Artemis generation that won't, and so it won't. I think it will still carry a lot of excitement and captivation, especially if you look at the videos of the Apollo 11 moon landing and the television broadcast. Obviously, by modern standards, it's antiquated.
Right.
Black and white, fuzzy.
Black and white. Some of the screens were actually the video camera taking a picture of another screen. Yeah, a screen.
So there's not the same, experience that we would have today, where I assume we'll have high definition, 4K,
right,
or, at least HD,
crazy
color,
footage,
and really will be more of an immersive experience than just here's a static camera. You don't see it actually landing only once they're about ready. So people will be able to experience it a little bit more intimately than we were able to do.
Just because of technology, right?
The
technology is
but remember, and this is an important thing, and I think it's interesting, is by the time we got to Apollo 12, they had brought a color camera, a color TV camera. It broke because Al Bean accidentally pointed the camera at the sun, and that burned out the tube.
Oh, wow.
But we were able to eventually get color TV, and by the time Apollo 17 happened, the rover had a color-mounted camera on it that could point around. They had a color camera that they used from orbit, as they did in Apollo 11.
Yeah.
And when Apollo 17 burned to come back to the Earth, the last time that we were at the moon, they were far enough away from over the far side of the moon, but in sight of the Earth, that they were actually broadcasting live color TV showing the far side of the moon, which in 1972. So that's
hardcore.
Yeah, wow. We went from very, very grainy black and white TV from the surface of the moon to color TV over the far side of the moon, and I think, wow, that even in that 4 years we made incredible leaps, and so that makes me excited to see what we'll be able to do to bring people along with us with the Artemis program.
If the technology to sort of share the experience with people increased that much in the 4 years, how much has it increased in 50 years, right?
The one thing I hope we don't see happening from the moon, I really don't. I mean, as much as I'm happy that we see astronauts tweeting from the space station, I really don't want to see, OMG, we're on the moon, hashtag Artemis. I think we can skip some of that.
They're gonna make a phone that operates in a vacuum, right?
Exactly.
In special tipped spacesuit gloves. They have where you can tap on the phone. Right. There's gonna be like an astronaut out there.
Errors.
OMG, it's the moon.
Emoji
like this, a selfie on the moon, like picking up moon rocks, y'all. Like
I hope maybe with the second or third, maybe with the first one. Let's keep it a little.
Right. I mean, so I don't even know. Like, you have the one small step for. I'm gonna throw the man in there, right? One giant leap for mankind. How do you come up with words to follow up on that, right?
Well, so Pete Conrad on Apollo 12, he was talking with a friend of his, and they said, well, they're going to tell you what to say. And he said, no, they're not. I'm going to say something that will guarantee.
They didn't script this.
And he didn't use profanity, which was hard for him. He was a very profane person.
Yeah.
And Pete Conrad, rest in peace, we love you. It's not a bad thing. But he said that might have been a small step for Neil, but it's a giant leap for a small guy like me, something to that effect. It's a laugh line.
Yeah.
And so then that's Pete Conrad.
Yeah.
And so
it humanizes a little bit because it's like this is a real person stepping on the moon, making a bad joke. Like
exactly, a good dad pun. And so it was and that certainly let any tension that might have even existed out. And I don't know that anyone's compiled all of the 12
first words.
But I know Jack Schmidt was the only geologist, so he gets out second. Gene Cernan had gotten out and been walking around, and Jack's first line was, well, who's been messing up my valley floor? And it's a very kind of geologist.
Who's been messing up my valley floor?
So it goes on from there, and I think it might be a fun thing for folks. Let's do hashtag first words.
Right.
What would your first word be, chat, if you walked on the moon?
Yeah.
And for those of you that are familiar with The Onion, remember The Onion headline mocking the 1969 Apollo 11 moon landing?
What did it say?
I'll tell you offline.
Okay, I'll tell offline. Nice. So that's a good question. Chat, y'all put, like, what would you say if you were stepping on the moon for the first time? And please be a little bit more creative than holy.
Yes.
Like, come on. Yeah, really?
Keep it
you can do better than
PG-13.
that. Yes, please. Hi, Mom. You would say hi, Mom. Really? Another happy landing.
Dad.
Yeah, hi, Dad. Viral videos from the moon. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Really? Come on. Ring that bell. You have to be kidding me. Really? Like, I hope that's not what we get.
Yeah, I hope that astronauts on the moon are never trolling for likes.
Trolling for likes.
I really don't.
You're an astronaut. You're walking on the moon. You don't have to
No.
troll for likes.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we're going to like your Instagram photos, okay?
Yes.
You're on the moon.
Hit me up on Insta. Is that
Yeah,
what they-
hit me
is that
up
what
on.
they-
I think that's what the kids are saying these days. I don't know. Of course, there's a Starbucks here.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Of course, there's
I
a
like
Starbucks.
that.
Sponsored by
That's
Starbucks.
right. See, okay, so yeah, it's like, but then the Starbucks barista writes the wrong name on
What's
it.
the wrong name on
It's
it?
like-
It says like Neil instead of Buzz. Or
Kneel. No.
Oh no! There's like an entire Saturday Night Live skit that could be done there. I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
Hey, I made it. This is amazing. Nope, still can't find my remote.
That's good. Did I leave my charger in the car? There was on one of the missions, and maybe it was even in preparation for Apollo 11. There was some discussion. Okay, Neil, what are you going to say? And they said, Neil, if you want NASA to receive funding for the rest of time, get out and say, oh my God, what are those little creatures doing there? Or something like. Of course, he didn't say that.
Gosh.
But and there's obviously Neil said the exact right thing.
Right.
It's the kind of I defy anyone to think of something better than what he said.
Exactly.
It does not exist.
Yeah, you had 50 years to think about. Well, not the person landing on the moon is probably not going to be 50 years old. But all the time you've had to think about this, I don't know what you could come up with that would top that.
I mean, and so we should not even try because it's timeless, it's classic, and he did.
I got mine though.
Job.
I got mine.
What
though.
would your?
I got mine though, right? Because we've made this big deal about the first woman on the moon,
Yes.
and the next man on the moon, right? And I'm just going to toss this out there. I think the first person to step back on the moon should be a woman.
And incidentally, of the current astronaut corps, and the administrator said, in that group of astronauts are the astronauts that will be doing this. And I think there are 35 active astronauts, 18 of whom are female. So, and you look at, everyone should. First of all, there are six astronauts in space right now.
Right.
And I have an app that tells me who it is, but I should try to know those names.
Some of the Russian names are hard to pronounce, man.
It's like hockey players.
It's hockey players.
We should know their names, and some of these people are going to be the next Neil Armstrong, the next Buzz Aldrin.
Yeah.
And so we should start. They should be part of our consciousness.
Right. They should be like the superstars, rock stars,
Absolutely.
the sports players, or these massively followed people. And I would love to see the astronauts who are returning to the moon have the same sort of level of influence, level of celebrity is the wrong term, but you sort of know what I mean, right? Like people are inspired by them. Yeah.
I would actually encourage everyone to. I humble brag. I had the real benefit of getting to meet Sunita Williams last year.
Nice.
She's an incredible person. Her resume is amazing, and just being with her, and of course she's an astronaut, so there's already that oh my God, she's an astronaut. Very humble, very nice, but I will follow her through the gates of hell because she is boy, she knows exactly.
She knows the deal.
So I hope Sunita Williams is that first person.
Nice.
Me personally, but I don't know.
God.
It's not going to be up to me.
It's not going to be up to
I'm
me.
not making that call.
Tell them they can't see your LRO imagery unless you get to make the call. You got some bargaining chips here. It works that way, right?
There are geologists who are part of the astronaut corps. Love to see geologists go along with that first mission. It took up until Apollo 17 to get a geologist.
Yeah, that was a big deal because they were mostly test pilots.
And with 17, originally that crew didn't have Jack Schmitt. He was going to go to the moon on Apollo 18.
Right.
But when Apollo 18 was canceled, there was incredible pressure to have a scientist, and it would have been him, go to the moon. And so they switched Jack Schmitt into that position, and it was somewhat controversial. And Deke Slayton, who is the head of the astronaut office, wrote an autobiography about that whole experience of running the astronaut program, and he never really explained why he didn't just take the entire Apollo 18 crew and move it forward. He took one person, and here's another thing that's should be remembered about these crews, the Apollo crews. It wasn't just that they were put together for the first time. Often they had trained together as backups for prior missions. So even on Apollo 11,
you're like a team to go out there and get it done.
Apollo 11's crew was mostly the Apollo 8 backup crew. There was some changing in that, and so the Apollo 17 crew had trained with Apollo 14.
Right.
So they had been together. Apollo 18's crew was the Apollo 15 backup.
Right.
So there had already been kind of a team vibe built up. And so switching those people out it worked. It was not disruptive.
Sure.
But it was, okay, it's a
sort
new
of a thing.
group. There's a new, it's like, all of a sudden Ringo's a Beatle. You know, it changes the dynamic a little
Right,
bit. Obviously
right.
it worked, but there was some, and then Dick Gordon, who didn't get to go to the moon, sees his lunar module pilot go instead of him.
Oh, wow.
And, these are also people.
That's got to be rough to be on like Apollo 18 and one of the
not
didn't get the
crummy
mission.
Movie,
not the crummy movie. Oh gosh.
but no, yeah,
to be on one of the canceled missions, right?
And there's a little bit of speculation, but it's pretty well established who the Apollo 18, 19, and 20 crews would have been.
Right.
And around 1971, after Apollo 15, when those 3 missions were canceled, they went off to do other roles, and go either onto Skylab, retire, support shuttle development.
Right.
So it was, there are people who they could have been moonwalkers, and in addition to Fred Hayes and Jim Lovell, who were on their way to the moon with Apollo 13, were going to become moonwalkers until their accident
until they started the tanks, right?
Exactly.
Until they started the tanks. So I'm going to read some more chat here,
absolutely.
right quick, and see what we've got. I didn't think there was that much gray in the whole galaxy. Interesting.
Yep, that's true.
That's a good question for you. We look up at the moon and it looks like it's white or like a light gray, but then I see a moon rock and it's very dark.
Yes.
What's the deal?
So, part of it is that, when the moon is up in the night sky, it's the brightest object, so your eye
like a
kind of
contrast thing?
It's a contrast thing. But really, the astronauts, when they're in orbit, reported seeing tans, brownish colors. And actually,
Right.
the true color of the moon, especially when you're up close, there are tones to it. In fact, second humble brag, I've been working with Jack Schmidt.
He just keeps tossing them in there. He's a scientist at NASA. That's not enough. He's got to keep twisting the.
Jack Schmidt, who found that orange soil on the moon. You saw the video clip of my talk yesterday.
It's orange.
When they reported that to Ron Evans was orbiting the moon, he started seeing colors elsewhere, and Jack was worried that, have we suggested that it's there? And so when he got back in orbit, he indeed started seeing color in other places. So he took color pictures from orbit. Now you think, why would they take color film to the moon? Well, it's a good thing they did, because he thought he saw orange colored material elsewhere on the moon. Now, I think it's interesting. We get the pictures back, they're developed, and we see them online now, but they're not color contrasted, probably not actually calibrated.
Right.
Just scan and there it is.
There you go.
So Jack has actually worked with some image processors to, for instance, with the orange soil, actually make the orange soil look like the way he saw it.
The way he saw it.
If you see the pictures reproduced online or in books, it looks kind of like a muddy brown, but it was a really
like a
bright
vibrant
orange. It was like hunter's orange, glaze orange color, and so they were able to stretch it, and when you see it, you're like, oh my God, that's the moon, because there's actually yellow samples that he saw as well, and so you see this color to the moon, this vibrancy that we don't normally associate it, but it's true because Jack saw it. That was exactly how he saw it. He lifted his visor so there was no reflections, and he could see it with his own eyes. Oh my God, there's orange soil. You hear that in his voice.
Yeah, you could really hear the excitement.
And you see it other places.
Like he's like yelling at the other. He's like, "It's orange!
Yeah.
It's orange over here!" Like, look at this. Like, and that's a really surprising thing.
Yep.
So, God.
So I hope. I'm sure that when we go back to the moon with RMS, we'll have really high quality digital cameras.
Yep.
But that color that we see, that we know is there, is really is expressed in the pictures.
Expressed correctly, like a real sort of thing, as opposed to a process sort of thing. Because that is a thing. Like a lot of times when you see these amazing images of Jupiter or of Saturn, it doesn't always come through in that exact color, and sometimes people take some liberties with it and make the colors pop or whatever. And so getting a realistic sort of depiction, representation of what you're actually seeing is super important from a scientific perspective.
And I know that became somewhat controversial with pictures from Cassini.
Cassini, that's right.
Because how do you color? Do you want it as the human eye would see it, or do you want it as the camera was designed?
As the camera would see it.
So there's subtleties to it, and it's one person processing it versus another. You might get two completely different ways of viewing something.
Right.
Somewhere in there is truth.
Probably depends on the context. Like what's the intention of it? Is it to inspire someone?
Bring out detail? In which case you have to really stretch it to. So,
absolutely. Gotcha. Let's look at some more chat here. Let's see. Oh, that's a good one. So you've got LRO, right?
Yes.
And with us going back with Artemis, do you know if there's any plans or systems that they're talking about making like a lunar GPS? Like how do you know where you are? On the moon.
We talked about this in my talk. There were a handful of episodes in Apollo where the astronauts got not necessarily lost, but had trouble judging distances.
Right.
Lunar GPS, would require multiple satellites I think ultimately what we'll be able to do is with the high-resolution images that we have is really use the landmarks and tracking, and ultimately something that we didn't have in Apollo, but like a laser rangefinder.
Right.
They had real trouble judging distances.
Right.
So on Apollo 16, there was a huge boulder they wanted to sample. So they drove the rover up to it, parked, and started walking. And walking.
You can imagine. I've done that in Kerbal.
Yeah, it's a little rangefinder to say, okay, it's 50 meters away, so let's get it closer, or whatever.
Right.
So I can imagine that there'll be other pieces of technology that we'll be able to use to help navigate around.
Gotcha.
But we also don't necessarily need to use GPS in the system that we think of it with multiple satellites.
That's lots of satellites, and your phone talks to multiple satellites, right?
There are, you can use, even though we don't think of being able to see stars of the moon because it's so bright, and that's why they're not in the pictures.
Right.
Remember that, folks? There are other ways of using either the position of the Earth,
right,
the position of well-known stars in the galaxy as navigational aids. So,
right.
So, we do want to have, with the return to the moon with Artemis, one of the eventual goals is to have very long-range traverses.
Right.
Maybe even a portable habitat that you drive along. And so we are going to have the astronauts traversing the surface of the moon over quite great distances, much more than we did with Apollo. And so navigating is going to be an important part of that. I think with the data that we have, we'll be able to support that.
Yeah, I'd never thought about that because the moon is tidally locked to Earth, right? And that means that we always see the same side of the moon.
Oh, there's the libration.
It moves a little bit, right?
Yep.
But I wonder how accurate it could be if you had an instrument that just looked at where the Earth was in the sky. Because knowing that the Earth only moves slightly based on its position, looking where it is in the sky should get you pretty close to where you are on the surface of the moon.
And we can also use triangulation of, same way that you do dead reckoning on the Earth. There are ways to use very simple techniques to help navigate that we might be able to do. One of the things that Jack Schmitt was able to do on Apollo 17, having really learned from these prior examples, all the previous missions, is he asked, he had a known height. They knew where the sun is in the sky, so they could calculate how long his shadow was. So periodically, he'd ask how long his shadow was. 5 meters, 10, whatever it was.
Right. I did that in Boy Scouts, where you lean the tree over and you measure it out.
Exactly.
So
he was able to understand that his shadow should be X amount, and he used that to help judge distances. So there are little tricks that we can use going back that will help us overcome some of those difficulties.
Yeah, gotcha. In chat, they were saying it's like smartphone-style accelerometers, like some of your close navigation on your phone isn't always talking to the satellites, but it's like, oh, I know you moved this way because of the accelerometers and stuff. Those sort of technologies.
With the lander, we'll have that precisely located, and you can use some differential
from the lander itself, or it's almost like as a beacon, a navigation beacon, or a buoy or something. I like it. Let's see here. We're talking about neural nets and stuff like that. I think one of the greatest things is that we don't have to have all this crazy stuff. Right?
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, we don't have to overdo it. Apollo showed that even with 1960s era technology, and ultimately, mid 60s technology, because it wasn't like they were developing it. It was improving over time, but it wasn't like Apollo 17 used technology that was developed 2 months before they launched. No, it was all built, designed, and set. So there was some latency with that.
Yeah, gotcha. And I'm scrolling through chat.
Sure.
I don't think you're super boring or anything like that. I'm looking for some new questions here. Let's see here. Yeah, that's always the thing. Like, we talked about that with the Apollo program where, it costs a lot of money to make that happen.
Right.
And you have to have that budget to make Apollo happen, to make Artemis happen, whatever. And then there's other things going on Earth.
Yes.
So that was something that we had to deal with during the Apollo program.
Right.
And should we really be spending this money to send a couple dudes to the moon, or is there better ways we could spend it back at Earth? And I imagine, I can say this, that I imagine people are going to have the same sort of feeling nowadays. Yeah. Like, why do we waste this money on space? And, we should be spending it here. And the real answer there is we learn so much in things that improve our technology that are our own abilities to deal with the Earth.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, obviously, I think this should be not a surprise that I want to support exploration. But if we can't do more than one big thing, why not?
Yeah.
Like, why can't we do this and something else? The peak of Apollo's funding was 5% of the national budget.
Right.
I don't know if you ask people what do you think the overall budget for NASA was?
For NASA is now
to do it.
Yeah.
It's less than it's half of 1% of the whole national discretionary budget.
Wow.
And so it's a fraction of the overall budget of the nation goes to doing NASA and NASA things.
Yeah.
And the other thing is NASA does more than just send humans into space. We're sending large telescopes for helio and astrophysics. We're sending planetary probes across the solar system.
Yep.
We're funding research. We're doing an enormous number of things.
You also have things that look back at the Earth.
Exactly, a fleet of Earth-observing satellites.
Yeah, so all of the weather, the storm prediction, hurricane predictions, all that stuff that you see in the news is because we've got support.
We're doing that.
We learn from NASA missions like that. So your cell phone GPS, hey, Delta 2, thanks for launching the entire GPS system. That's why your phone works, right? Gotcha, thank you. So all these different ancillary benefits, that it's not just, oh, we're going out there to take some selfies on the moon, right?
And also, I think it's important to realize when we launch a spacecraft to anywhere, okay, the price tag of that mission is X amount of dollars.
Right.
It's not like we have a piggy bank of $100 bills launching into space. That's money that's
one for LRO, two for LROs,
that's money that's going to pay scientists, engineers to build it, infrastructure.
That's a good point.
It's not, that money is being spent on the Earth for jobs, for professionals, for buying, building. So it's not, as much as the mission is expensive, the money is being spent here. We're not sending the money to the moon.
Yeah, it's not like.
So, I hope, and I'm sure people understand that. I'm not, so for the chat, when people say, "Oh, well, all this money is wasted," remember that's paying people's salaries.
Paying his salary, actually.
For example.
Geez, do you hate Noah? Why do you hate Noah? He has he has bills to pay.
I've got diapers to buy.
Come on, right? I think that's a completely fair assessment.
Not diapers for me, by the way. Very clear.
It's the astronauts, like the MAGs, right? The maximum absorptive garment or whatever.
Exactly.
We don't use those on the ground for the scientists. Maybe sometimes when you get data back, you're like, oh, man.
Yeah, I'm not leaving my chair.
All right, let's just walk around to that topic right quick. Here's one. This is sort of one of those commenting questions at the same time from Saber. I'd like to thank NOAA and the LRO team for making their data and findings publicly available.
Yes.
Because it helps citizen science.
That's right. And that's NASA policy. Every NASA mission, all data is made publicly available, and that's something that we've done from the beginning. We turn our data around every 3 months. Our camera team actually releases their data every month,
right?
Because they have such a large volume of data. We pride ourselves. All NASA missions pride themselves on making the data publicly available. We also try to make it easy to use.
Yep.
You don't necessarily have to be a specialist. Some of the data sets are fairly complicated, but if you want to go find an image of a particular area on the surface, we have tools that allow people to do that.
So you can actually find it and use it. And the rest of what Saber was saying here was it's not just important from a citizen science perspective, it's also for art.
Yes.
Because I know Saber. Saber actually operates the camera for us sometimes.
Okay, good.
And he does 3D renderings of spacecraft and stuff like that. And so he can take data from LRO and use that in his art to help inspire or communicate or whatever, right?
Yeah, so there's one of the great things that I've seen with LRO data is that it'll pop up in strange places, a commercial, on a poster, whatever it is, and I'll always take a look and think, okay, that looks like one of ours, and I'm always really thrilled to see the work that we do get used in artistic or sort of in public ways where people can really maybe not know that it's LRO data, but that it's there and that we've made that contribution.
Did you know that it would be used in that way?
No idea.
Just not even guess.
Again, the plan for LRO was that it'd be a 1 to 2 year mission. We'd collect the data and that's done. But now we've been there long enough where
10 years.
10 years where we can have products that either the science team makes, the group at Goddard, the Scientific Visualization Studio. If you try, all right, everyone go to svs.gsfc.nasa.gov, Scientific Visualization Studio.
Somebody type that in. What was it again?
Yeah, so it's SVS, Scientific Visualization Studio.gsfc.nasa.gov.
Okay.
And there is a treasure trove of products from our studio at Goddard, data visualization, using real data from missions to tell stories.
Right.
And the LRO material is really ubiquitous throughout that website, and some of it's just stunning. We had a video where our producer, Ernie Wright, who's brilliant, by the way, did this tour of the moon using our data set to Claire de Lune. And it's so ethereal and beautiful. It made me cry the first time because it's just so spectacular, and it's a wonderful use of our data.
Yeah. God. So, chat, we are coming up on the end of our time with Noah because you've got to go do some improv comedy, I think.
Terrifying thought.
Terrifying thought.
That should be exciting.
But we are going to cut Noah loose here, so you can go down and get ready for that. Noah, thank you again.
My pleasure.
For the time yesterday.
This was a great pleasure.
Excellent. And I hope you enjoyed just sort of sitting and chatting about stuff.
Absolutely. And thank you, chat, for bearing with me and dealing with my silliness. And
you're
it
fantastic.
was really great to participate again, and I can't wait to do it sometime in the future.
Excellent. So we're going to go to the Be Right Back screen. I'll come back and I'll sort of close things out here. But again, this is Noah Petro. He is from NASA Goddard. He's on the LRO, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, and I really do appreciate you spending some time here with us.
My pleasure. I loved it.
All right, good deal. Chad, hang in there. I'll be right back to let you know what's going on next. The awkward timing. Da 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 da. Count to 3, 4. It's about 7 seconds.
Okay.
5.